prayers.
Almighty God, who in your infinite wisdom and providential goodness have appointed the office of leaders and parliaments for the welfare of society and a just government of humanity, we beseech you to look upon with your abundant favor these your servants, whom you've been pleased to call to the performance of such important trust in this land. Let your blessing descend upon them here assembled, and grant that they may, as in your presence, treat and consider all matters that shall come under their deliberation in so just and faithful a manner as to promote your honor and glory, and to advance the good of those whose interest you have committed to their charge. Amen.
Amen. Item number 2, the order paper, communication from the chair.
Honorable members, I welcome you to this sitting. And honorable members, in the last few days, many Ugandans have lost their lives in road accidents. The carnage on our roads seems to be on the rise. It is reported that 7 lives were lost in an accident on Masaka-Kampala Road, and several were injured. In Bundibujo, the driver of a minibus lost control and plunged into a valley, and it is reported that 8 lives were lost and other passengers got injured. Many other accidents have occurred in various parts of the country, resulting in loss of lives. Honorable members, it is indeed sad that many families are grieving and affected by these road accidents. And 2 weeks ago, I made some communication on these issues and made some directions on how we need to handle this matter. The Global Status Report on Road Safety released by the World Health Organization in 2015 states that more than 1.2 million people die each year in the world roads, making road traffic injury a leading cause of death globally. Most of these deaths are in low and middle income countries where rapid economic growth has been accompanied by increased motorization and road traffic injuries. As well as being a public health problem, road traffic injuries are a development issue. Low and middle income countries lose approximately 3% of GDP as a result of road traffic crashes. Uganda as a country is in no doubt a victim of this challenge cited in the report. It is also important to note that last week it was reported in the mass media that the Ministry of Works and Transport had released a report on the incidence of accidents in Uganda. If true, this report must be tabled immediately, and the relevant committee should scrutinize it. Invite all the stakeholders to put their heads together and try and work out measures that will help Uganda reduce on the incidence of road accidents. Honorable members, once again, death has struck one of our elder statesmen, Major Edward Rangaranga, a former Deputy Minister for Local Government, a freedom fighter, a teacher, and a former National Chairman of the Uganda People's Congress. The late's contribution in Uganda is evidenced, among others, by his keen participation in the 1978-79 war for initiating the construction of schools and other infrastructure in the early 80s in the Ankole sub-region, and generally for supporting development initiatives. He was principled in his political beliefs, and until his death, he remained steadfast, espousing the ideology of the Uganda People's Congress. I wish to inform you that government has accorded Major Rangaranga an official burial, and his body will be brought to Parliament tomorrow, Thursday, 3rd August 2017, for public viewing in the morning, and also for the tribute motion starting at 2 o'clock. On behalf of Parliament and on my own behalf, I wish to convey our heartfelt condolences upon the loss of all the Ugandans I have mentioned above, and to wish their families courage and perseverance to bear the loss. Honorable members, let us rise and observe a moment of silence.
May their souls rest in peace.
Honorable members, yesterday, a set of car keys was found on this side of the bench. So, honorable member, if you misplaced your key, it is with the sergeant at arms. Please go pick it. I don't know how you are able to go home, but we thank God for the grace He gave you to find a way forward. But the keys were found, so please recover it from the sergeant at arms. Honorable members, I received a letter from the Honorable Minister for Gender, Labor and Social Development in respect of delayed reporting back to Parliament on the Persons with Disabilities Bill. You will recall that this bill was first introduced to Parliament, the last Parliament in the year 2014. And it was among the bills that should have come back, but has not found its way back. And the minister writes here now saying there are some consultations going on before the bill comes to the House. And she has given herself a timeline of 2 months to go through this process. Honorable members, if at the lapse of 2 months from the date of this communication, there is no bill, the Persons with Disabilities Bill, I urge us to activate other provisional rules of procedure to make sure that this particular bill comes to this House and is debated, because it affects people of this country. There was a matter raised about students from Gulu University who studied law, who were supposed to get a response today on how they're going to be handled. But the communication I got is that this response was supposed to come tomorrow, and tomorrow we'll be having a special sitting. So if it comes, it will now come to the Speaker's office, and we'll find ways of distributing this information to the affected persons, because the actual report is supposed to have come tomorrow, and that's where we are with this matter. So, honorable members, we expect a right thing now, not because tomorrow we'll not be able to submit it to Parliament. We expect that when the document comes, we circulate to the people concerned and alert the students and their parents so that they can take appropriate steps in fulfilling this. The other matter that is burning and that was pending, that has been debated, was the issue of the regional sports competitions in Gulu and the state of preparedness of the district to host, the schools around to host. That has been a challenge, and a request was made to the government, and we expected the Minister of Finance to come here, as he had agreed yesterday, to tell us what they have been able to find to support these things that is happening in Gulu. But I just got information from the minister himself. He's delayed, but as soon as he gets here, he will be making the statement on what needs to be done about this. So, thank you. Can I have member for Buhaguzi?
Right Honorable Speaker and colleagues, on the 27th, I rise on the matter of national importance. I beg your pardon. On the 27th of July 2017, government lost a case in the High Court of Masindi. This case was filed by Bunyoro Chitara Reparations Agency against the district land boards of Hoima, Bulisa, Masindi, Chiriandongo, Kakumiro, Chibale and Kagadi, all in Bunyoro Kitara region and kingdom. Areas seeking, among other things, declaration that the land in Bunyoro is owned by the indigenous people, in bracket Banyoro, and held in trust by the king, and that the district land boards did not have power to recommend issuance of titles in the kingdom. Their argument was and is that customary land can only be owned by the indigenous people in the area. Buktarepa also prayed for cancellation of all land titles issued by the respective district land boards. Unfortunately, all the district land boards did not appear in court to defend the case. The Assistant Registrar of the High Court, Masindi, entered a judgment in default against the land boards and awarded all the prayers sought, including a declaration that all land titles granted by the defendant land boards in the form of freehold or leasehold was done so unconstitutionally, and that all land titles issued after 1998 are null and void. It also freezes the work of land boards. In essence, this default judgment erodes property right of all persons in Bunyoro sub-region.
What is the urgent matter? We're not going to start debating court judgments. What are you talking about?
Right Honorable Speaker, this judgment has set a precedence in all regions with kingdoms that people who are non-indigenous...
Honorable Member, I'm going to ask you to resume your seat. What is the urgent matter you like to raise?
The urgent matter would request that Parliament prevails over the Attorney General to challenge this matter.
Please resume your seat.
Thank you. But I have some documents to lay on the table.
Please resume your seat. Chiboga, East.
Thank you, Right Honourable Speaker. I'm raising on a matter of national importance, and it's about the looming strike of the judicial officers, the third arm of government, which I believe will be, in a democratic state, it will be unimaginable that one arm of the government cannot function. And they announced their strike on the 24th, and they given government the ultimatum of the 24th August. So we just have about 21 days. Right Honourable Speaker, as you know, we've been having the pay scales, salary scales, which were set up for public officers. And these were set up many, many years ago. And there's been no review, although the Salary Review Commission had been agreed way back in 1995. It has never been set up. And the response to various strikes that have been on has been a piecemeal response. I think the response has been according to how strong the institution is that is striking. And others who are not within the ambit of the public service have been able to set their salaries, which are very astronomical. And as you know, Right Honourable Speaker, we've recently seen some institutions having their salaries increased, like the Electoral Commission, the permanent secretaries, the teachers, lecturers, and most recently, which has been partially resolved, the prosecutors. But right now, we also have some university lecturers also coming up on strike. We have public university support staff also coming up on strike. Local government association, who recently embarrassed our minister, they're also coming up on strike. They've announced actually a slow strike, which will eventually turn into a full-blown strike. But I think most important for me, and as I said, the reason why I'm rising is the consequence that what it will mean if the judges, who we now very disciplined officers, if judges and magistrates, if they continue and go on strike. And I've been looking at literature. What happened, for instance, in Malawi, it caused a full constitutional crisis. Just as an example, in one of the prisons in Blantyre, which was supposed to host 800 inmates, because their cases couldn't be processed, it accommodated over 3,000. And it's being said that even others were sleeping on top of others, which is a very serious issue. So my prayer, Right Honourable Speaker, is that government comes to Parliament and explain how it's responding and how it's trying to avert this crisis, because they are determined. And also update us on what's happening with the setting up of the Salary Review Commission, which probably will reassure all others that something is being done to bring their pay scales up to scale.
Honourable Minister? No. On this issue, Minister of Public Service?
Right Honourable Speaker and Honourable Members, the member for Kiboga has raised a very serious matter, and indeed government is treating it seriously. At the moment, the Minister of Public Service and the Minister of Finance are actually working out an arrangement where some of these issues, especially the disparities, will be addressed. And as soon as the consultations are done, the issue is going to be tabled in Cabinet and a decision taken, and then it will be explained to the rest of the country. However, at the same time, the concerned ministries and leaders of the ministries are engaging the people concerned in this matter with a strike to try and make sure that a crisis is not precipitated and that an amicable solution will be found to this issue. On the issue of the Salary Review Commission, Right Honourable Speaker, yes, indeed, the matter in principle was accepted, but it awaited actually some of the amendments of the Constitution which must be done. And when those amendments come in, then a commission, a Salary Review Commission, I think will be established. But in the meantime, the Ministry of Public Service has actually been charged together with the Ministry of Finance, to make sure that some preliminary work is done to ensure that all these issues that have given rise to discontent, disparity are handled, and we come up with a harmonized salary structure that is going to take into account the economic situation now, the conditions under which we work, and indeed the ability of the economy to sustain that kind of remuneration which we'd like to have. I can say, Right Honourable Speaker, that within a very short time, maybe less than a month, all these consultations will be over and they'll be presented to Cabinet, and the Cabinet will take a decision about the matter.
Thank you. Thank you. Honourable Minister.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker and honorable colleagues, yesterday a matter of our foreign comrades in a peace mission in Somalia was raised on this floor, and we are supposed to make a statement today. Right Honorable Speaker, a board of inquiry was instituted to establish the circumstances of the fateful incident, and as standing procedure, AU also has instituted one. Mr. Speaker, once the findings and the details of the circumstances will be communicated when the Board of Inquiry is concluded. Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you. Once that is done, please bring us a copy to Parliament and we see, we also alert it. Whether we debate it or not, that will be our prerogative. Thank you. Bulambuli District. Can I have Chibuko while they are fixing the microphone? Chibuko, County.
Thank you, Right Honorable Speaker, Honorable colleagues. Kinover Herbert is my name for record. Right Honorable Speaker, I raise on matter of national importance. This follows the Minister of Water and Environment visit to Chibuku. On 14th January, NEMA went and slashed people's rights. And I talked to the minister. The minister went there on 21st January and intervened. He allowed people to get out to their rights, which was okay. And we agreed with the minister that by July, we must have come up with the permanent solution to this issue. And one of it was, one is to meet with the NEMA team to go and have the clear demarcation on the buffer zone, on where people should end, so that they should not encroach on the wetland. To my surprise, it was on 18th of July, the minister sent me a WhatsApp message saying, Kinovera, I'm in your constituency, where are you? I was like, I'm in Kampala. Because when I called the chairman, told me the minister is here, we are going to the wetland, to the market, and see where get people out of the wetland. And as I talk right now, over 7,500 families have been displaced, their land have been taken away, and people want to demonstrate. Yet we agreed that we should come up and have a clear demarcation. Even me personally, I wouldn't want people to encroach on the wetland. But my concern is we should come up and information.
Please finish. You are the one with the information.
Okay, thank you, Right Honorable Speaker. People want to demonstrate, saying, one, we agree that you will come and meet us and you guide us on where we end, such that we shouldn't encroach on the wetland again. But this is a situation where they went and they planted a signpost, including people's land, have been cut off. Stop telling them, no, go beyond this point. And this is not fair. Right Honorable Speaker, my prayer is, one, I request that the minister should first halt on the issue of stopping people using their land, their own land, not the wetland, but their own land. Two, the ministry should come up with the list of all gazetted wetlands in Uganda, because personally we don't know. The ministry should bring us the gazetted list of wetlands and their demarcations, such that I will also extract mine for Chibuku. I will go and meet with my people and tell them, here, Limoto and Pologoma is gazetted, and you are supposed to go beyond this point. I think I'm one of the people, one of the person who can talk to my people and listen more than the minister going there alone, because they are my voters. Thank you very much, Right Honorable Speaker, and that's my prayer.
Thank you, Palisa.
Honorable Speaker, I want to shed more information on that subject. The issue he's raising is very, very, very serious. That region has a unique problem. The swamps have been a source of livelihood for a long time. As of now, the upland is very small. The people, due to population explosion, people have nowhere to cultivate. And it is also absurd that there is no cash crop at the moment. There is no deliberate program that government is doing to improve people's livelihoods. So cultivating rice is kind of the prevailing economic activity, catering for school fees and all those basic needs. Whereas I appreciate the government effort to conserve the environment, they should do it in a manner that addresses the local issues. There is no land, there is no cash crop. Has government explored the possibility of people growing the rice without destroying the environment? Have you designed quick impact projects that can give alternative income? Because going into this without those alternatives, we may not be very successful. Thank you.
Thank you. Minister, on this matter?
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. Sometime at the beginning of this year, I went to Kibuku and we had a meeting with the members of parliament, including Honorable Kinovere. We held a meeting and with the farmers who were planting rice in the wetland, and we agreed. And in fact, the farmers also agreed that by 1st July, they would vacate the wetlands. We all agreed, we are all very happy, including the members of parliament. In fact, we received standing ovation for the decision we made. Now, I'm surprised, Mr. Speaker, that the Honorable Kinovere is accusing us of so many things. First of all, when I went recently to Kibuku to monitor what had taken place since we last visited the place, we found that the farmers had voluntarily left the wetland. And in fact, I'm happy to report that the wetland has regenerated. And the people, as we speak, are harvesting fish from the wetland.
Thank you. Thank you, Honorable Minister, for giving way. Right, Honorable Speaker, I'm seeking the clarification from the Minister, because I had a colleague say that 7,500 families have been displaced from the wetland. I would want to find out from the Minister if all 7,500 families all this time have been settled in the wetland, and what have you been doing about this?
Thank you very much, Honorable Speaker. There were no people who had settled on the wetland. First of all, it is not possible to have a house on a wetland. So I think, anyway, it may be possible, but what I'm saying is that there were no families settled on the wetland. So there was, actually what happened is that some of these people who were cultivating in the wetland were coming from various places. Some were coming as far as Palisa. Some of them, I think, even as far as Mbale. But otherwise, there was nobody who was settling on the wetland. So nobody was evicted from settling. But it is true that they were cultivating there. But I want to report to the member, because he may not have been there of recent, that your people, that when we went to Kibuku, in fact, we got a very good welcome. People were happy, but what we agreed was that there should be proper demarcation, showing the land that is a wetland and that the land that belongs to the people. That's the directive I left, and I advised that NEMA should work very closely with the people. And I hope they are doing so. Thank you, Honorable
Clarification. Clarification.
Thank you.
Clarification.
Muhaguzi, you want to summarize? Buaguzi, you want to summarize the urgent matter on that issue?
Honorable Speaker, because of that High Court ruling in Masindi, which is actually a default judgment, banks are no longer accepting land titles as collateral. Some people have started allocating pieces of land that in case there is an eviction and some people are told to leave those land titles where they used to belong. And there is insanity which used to be there. People used to live together harmoniously, all tribes in Bunyoro, but now we are seeing each other as rivals, and yet it is uncalled for. My prayer is that Parliament prevails over this matter and a challenge is sent so that we challenge this default judgment. Right, Honorable Speaker. Thank you so much.
Honorable, you want Parliament to challenge a judgment of the court? Please, 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 please. Honorable members,
that to prevail over the Attorney General.
Members, please, 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 please. Honorable members, the issue that the member raised with me is that as a result of that judgment, there's some confusion at the moment. And that is the issue that you should have clearly raised so that we can be assisted or now. But Parliament cannot start saying, go and appeal. Go. No, please. But that is the issue, that now there's some, as a result, as a consequence of this judgment, there is now some confusion among the people. Can somebody responsible for these issues in the districts, the land issues, go and sort it out before people go and get bigger problems about these issues? Thank you. Honorable members, today we will be dealing with the issue of the rules. We need to finish with the rules. So all other business will be stayed until we finish with the rules. Reason being, tomorrow we have a special sitting. And I'd say that it was very likely that tomorrow we'll go on recess. But arising from this situation that has now come, that we have to deal with these other matters tomorrow, we have to deal with the rules today. So because of that reason, I am calling this matter forward and we're going to deal with it. Statements that are pending will come immediately after I finish with the rules. And if the Minister of Finance comes, we'll deal with the issue of the sports in Gulu, and we'll find an avenue to deal with that. And also, we'll now need a conclusion on the issue of the Nodding Syndrome Centers that are being abandoned by the donors who are there, that we also have that matter settled since Parliament is going to recess, so that we know what the communities will be expecting from Parliament. Can you call item on the rules, please? Please, 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 please.
Item number 3. Motion for adoption of the proposed amendments to the Rules of Procedure of Parliament of Uganda.
In the public gallery this afternoon, we have members of the Global Network Evangelistic Association from Makindye, Kampala District. They are represented by Honorable Alan Sewanyana and Honorable Sempala Nabila. They're here to observe the proceedings. Please join me in welcoming them. You're very welcome. Chair.
Right Honorable Speaker, at the last sitting yesterday, we stood over Rule 162 pending a redraft of the draft that the committee had presented before this House. The committee has redrafted the rule to read as follows. Rule 162, composition and functions of the Committee on Public Accounts, Central Government. Replace the entire rule as follows. Sub-Rule 1, the Committee on Public Accounts, Central Government, shall comprise of 30 members designated by party whips on basis of proportional party membership in the House, taking into consideration the interests of independent members. Sub-Rule 2, the clerk shall receive the Auditor General's report submitted in accordance with Clause 4 of Article 163 of the Constitution relating to the central government and the judiciary. Sub-Rule 3, the Speaker shall cause the report to be laid before the House by a commissioner, and the report shall be referred to the Committee on Public Accounts, Central Government. Sub-Rule 4, the committee shall, upon receipt of the Auditor General's report under Sub-Rule 3, consider and examine the recommendations of the Auditor General on the audited accounts of the central government and the judiciary. Sub-Rule 5, the chairperson of the committee shall lay the report of the committee on table for debate by the House under Clause 5 of Article 163 of the Constitution.
Honorable member, is that clear now? Can I put the question to this now?
No, Mr.
Chair?
Honorable Speaker, I was just wondering about the chronology, because the current sub-rule 2 provides, it talks about the role of the committee. And the chairperson is proposing we jump straight to the Auditor General's report. I don't know if that chronology is correct, if we could look at it again. I thought it's important to talk about what the committee does, and then we go to the Auditor General's report, and then the process is there too.
So what is being proposed by the chair of the committee will run from sub-rule 3, not so?
Yeah, please.
In other words, we retain sub-rule 1 in the existing rule and sub-rule 2 in the existing rule. Then what you're presenting now start from sub-rule 3. Is that correct? Chair?
Right, Honorable Speaker, the committee has no objection.
Can I put the question to this now, honorable members? I put the question, will those in favor say aye, to the contrary, no? The ayes have it. Chair?
Right, Honorable Speaker, the committee stood, the House stood over Rule 166, and we had received an alternative proposal from the Honorable Nzo to complement the proposals that the committee had submitted to this House. And Honorable Nzo had presented his proposals, then the House was adjourned without a ruling on them. But the proposals were that we rephrase Part D of Rule 166 to read, to assess annually the performance of loans and guarantees approved by Parliament. G, to examine the annual state of indebtedness and management of government debt, including the Debt Management Performance Assessment Framework. H, to examine loan guarantee requests and assess the performance of existing ones by government. I, examine the report on grants received by government. Honorable Speaker, this still maintains the spirit of the proposals of the committee, and the committee has no objection to it.
Can I put the question to this on the functions of the national economy, is it? Yes, Committee on National Economy. I put the question to that. Will those in favor say aye, to the contrary? No. The ayes have it. An honorable member for Busongora North is voting loudest. because that is his proposal. Congratulations, honorable member.
Rule 167, Functions of the Government Assurance and Implementation Committee. Insert new sub-rule 5 as follows. The committee shall submit to the sectoral committees a list of government assurances that are pending fulfillment during the consideration of reports on policy statements and budget estimates by Parliament. Justification: to ensure that government fulfills its pledges.
Is that clear now? Can I put the question on that? Yes, Chair.
Thank you very much, Right Honourable Speaker. We, as members of the committee, propose that the proposed amendments will be redrafted as follows. Instead of the committee submitting the list of government assurances to the committees during the budget process, our report should come to the House so that it is debated. Actually, we propose a complete redrafting of the rule to read as follows. Delete that part which you have amended and substitute to read like this. Subsection A of 167. Record and scrutinize the assurances, promises, and undertakings given by any minister, prime minister, president, vice president in the House from time to time. That's A. Subsection B. Monitor and evaluate the fulfillment of government assurances. Then add, the chairperson of the Committee on Government Assurances and Implementation shall present a committee report on the status of implementation and the extent to which the government assurances, promises, and undertakings have been implemented from time to time. D. The report of the committee, so presented by the chairperson of the Committee on Government Assurances and Implementation, shall be debated by the whole House. E. The leader of government business shall respond to the report and the issues raised by the members during the debate in the House before the approval of the budget framework paper. Thank you, Right Honourable Speaker.
Was this proposed to you, Chair? Was it proposed to the committee?
Right Honourable Speaker.
Right Honourable Speaker, these are new proposals from the committee.
Right Honourable Speaker, we met the committee. We have even our records here. We are very surprised to see that what we proposed to the committee has never been included as we proposed. Even we met as recent as yesterday, but when we came here, and our legal counsel took our draft to the legal officer of this committee on rules. But we don't know why these proposals we have made have not been included there. In the current form of the old rules, the whole House is excluded from debating on the government assurances and the level of implementation. Yet every member of Parliament here is affected.
It's okay, Honourable Chair. The situation is this. There are two processes. One that is proposed by the Rules Committee and the one that has been proposed by you. But the two are not conflicting. They're not conflicting. The two can work together in this way. There is the normal procedure for the committee to do in the course of its work and lay reports accordingly. But there is also that role which now is being assigned to the committee to advise the sectoral committees on the different assurances that have been made as the committees are examining the ministerial policy statements and budgetary proposals. So that you also assist the committee, say, this sector, there were these assurances, this particular sector, so that they report on all those, but without affecting what you are going to report in the overall. So the two can actually coexist if somebody could help us with combining the two drafts so that we can adopt them.
Yes, Honorable Speaker. Maybe in that way, what he has proposed there should become an addition as if. After all this that I've read,
the numbering is okay. The numbering doesn't matter. That can be the general thing to assist the other committees. Once it's adopted, the numbering can be done by the drafting people.
if our proposals are not
we'll deal with the actual
left
proposal.
out,
We'll
we have no problem with the proposal of the Committee on Legal Rules.
What I was trying to do is to say that there is no conflict between what you have proposed and what the Committee of Legal has proposed. If it is harmonized, it actually works better. Yes, Lira? Procedure, you said?
Thank you so much, Right Honorable Speaker. I just wanted to add on what the chairperson has proposed. Right Honorable Speaker, yes, there is need to notify the committee on the government assurances, but sometimes by the time they're reporting, it's already late. Ministers have already come with a draft proposal. I would propose that as they give to the committees, they should also forward it to the line ministries so that they are aware of it and it is captured in the draft budget, even if it has no, it has a funding gap, it has no budget, it is already captured and it can be assured in the next budget. So my proposal is that if they're giving to the committee, the different committees, they should also send it to the line ministries to capture it in the draft budget. Thank you.
Good Chair.
Right Honorable Speaker, the committee has no problem with these proposed amendments. Their exclusion from our report is simply that they were brought after the report had been submitted, but the committee has no problem with the new proposals.
Okay, can we have the redraft? We have a technical team here. Can they assist and submit a draft after? We stand over this a bit to get the text right.
Okay, the technical committee is in here and I'm sure they'll do that.
They'll capture that, the spirit of what is proposed by Honorable Fungaro, Chair of Government Assurances, and also what has been proposed by the Committee on Rules. Honorable members, there's a petition that we need to handle. We will find time and handle it shortly, but let's first see how we move with this. Next.
Right Honorable Speaker, as a consequence of the redrafting of Rule 162, the committee has also found it prudent to redraft Rule 169 to read as follows. Functions of the Committee on Commissions, Statutory Authorities and State Enterprises. Replace Sub-Rule 3 and 4 as follows. Sub-Rule 3, the clerk shall receive the Auditor General's report submitted in accordance with Clause 4 of Article 163 of the Constitution relating to commissions, statutory authorities and state enterprises. Sub-Rule 4, the Speaker shall cause the report to be laid before the House by a commissioner, and the report shall be referred to the Committee on Public Accounts, Commissions, Statutory Authorities and State Enterprises. Sub-Rule 5, the committee shall, upon receipt of the Auditor General's report under Sub-Rule 3, consider and examine the recommendations of the Auditor General on the audited accounts of the commissions, statutory authorities, and state enterprises. Sub-Rule 6, the chairperson of the committee shall lay the report of the committee on table for debate by the House under Clause 5 of Article 163 of the Constitution.
Thank you, but the head note of that rule, I thought you amended the name of the committee earlier.
Oh, yes. The name of the rule is now PAC, Public Accounts Committee, Stroke Committee on Commissions, Statutory Authorities, and State Enterprises.
Is that what we adopted? Please read what we adopted. We adopted a more compressed name. Public Accounts Committee, and then in brackets, the commissions, state enterprises, and something. Yeah. I thought that captured it better. We adopted it already in an earlier amendment.
Right Honorable Speaker, we shall correct that. I can't find it in the report right now, but I will do it.
Okay, so it's a consequential amendment really to what we had already adopted as the name of the committee.
It's actually PAC, Commissions on
What is PAC?
Public Accounts Committee.
Okay.
Yes.
Public Accounts Committee, and in brackets, what is the title?
PAC in brackets, Commissions, Territorial Authorities and State Enterprises.
Correct. Thank you. Honorable members, can I put a question to that amendment? I put the question. Will those in favor say to the contrary? No. The ayes have it. Next, Chair.
Right Honorable Speaker, the House, the amendments made to Rule 162 yesterday make it irrelevant now to amend Rule 170 as we had proposed, because the same proposal is what we had proposed in 162 to have the clerk replaced with the speaker. That's the only proposal, and it was rejected, so we don't see any point of bringing it to 170.
What about the title?
The title was Functions of the Committee on Local Government Accounts. And we had proposed in Sub-Rule 3 to replace clerk with speaker. And this proposal was rejected yesterday in Rule 160.
No, but wouldn't we have to improve it to be in consonant with the ones we have adopted for PAC, PAC 1, and then this PAC, PAC 3?
Yes.
Wouldn't we have to now bring those amendments also to apply to this particular committee? In other words, also change the head note, the title of the name of the committee, so that there's consistency for the 3 accountability committees.
Thank you, Right Honorable Speaker, for your wise guidance. Yes. Rule 170, Functions of the Committee on Local Government Accounts. Replace the entire rule as follows. Sub-Rule 1.
Is it the whole, or we start from some part? We retain the functions and then we go to the other accountability procedures.
Functions of
Thank you, Honorable Chair. Right Honorable Speaker, I noticed that in the amendment of the Chair, he is not explicit about the entities that Public Accounts Committee handles. Probably it would be prudent to mention them just like we've done with statutory authorities. Public Accounts Committee on Local Governments, Municipalities, and would that be okay? To make it explicit.
Because that is central government. By the time you finish listing central government, that rule will be 500 pages long.
Local government accounts.
Local government
that
accounts.
Was PAC 3.
Yes, it's local government. What is local government? It's local government. No, local government is local government. Central government is central government. If we are going to break it down, it would be very long. Chair?
Rule 170, Functions of the Public Accounts Committee or PAC Local Government Accounts. Replace the entire rule as follows. Sub-Rule 1, in accordance with Section 88, Subsection 8 of the Local Government Act 1997, the minister responsible for local governments shall lay before Parliament reports of the local government public accounts committees on the examination of the reports of the Auditor General, Chief Internal Auditor, and any reports of commissions of inquiry. Sub-Rule 2, the report submitted by the minister shall be referred to the Committee on Public Accounts, Local Governments. Sub-Rule 3, the clerk shall receive the Auditor General's report submitted in accordance with Clause 4 of Article 163 of the Constitution relating to local government accounts. Sub-Rule 4. The Speaker shall cause the report to be laid in the House by a Commissioner, and the report shall be referred to the Committee on Public Accounts, Local Government. Sub-Rule 5. The Committee shall, upon receipt of the Auditor General's report under Sub-Rule 3 and the reports submitted under Sub-Rule 1, consider and examine the recommendations of the Auditor General and the report of the Local Government Public Accounts Committees. Sub-Rule 6. The chairperson of the committee shall lay the report of the committee on table for purposes of debate by the House under Clause 5 of Article 163 of the Constitution.
Yes.
I'm sorry, Mr. Speaker, probably I didn't hear correctly. I think the chair omitted the law on which this committee bases its responsibility. That is the Local Government Act, Section 89. I think it's important that we quote it in the rules so that it's clear.
Right, Honorable Speaker, the House has been proceeding in error. That Section 89 actually deals with removal of a member of a local government public accounts committee. It doesn't apply to this particular section. So the committee has rectified that. Rule 88, subsection 8 is what applies, not 89. Thank you.
No, I'm sure the other rule was also okay, except from the realignment of the law, the sections could have changed. Can I put the question to this, Padiere? Can I put the question to this, please? Can
Yes,
I put the
Chair, I have no problem with amendment except sub-rule 1. Instead of starting with in accordance with the Local Government Act, this and so on, I think it should just be the minister shall do ABCD, and then you change in accordance at the end of the sentence. That is sub-rule 1. That is just legislative drafting anyway. Thank you.
Right, Honorable Speaker, as the Honorable Member has said, that is purely technical, and I think the technical committee will handle that.
Okay. Can I put the question to this amendment as proposed by the chair? Will those in favor try to the contrary? No. The ayes have it. Next, Chair.
Rule 175, sectoral committees. Under sub-rule 2, insert a new paragraph P as follows. Paragraph P, science and technology. Justification, the committee has to provide oversight of a line ministry, that is the Ministry of Science and Technology.
We made this amendment to move science and technology. No. I think it's a new committee. It's a new, okay.
Right, Honorable Speaker, we deleted section L from Rule 146 to move this committee from a standing committee to a sectoral committee. So here we've just found a home for it.
Okay, that's correct. So yes, Ajuri.
Right, Honorable Speaker, I agree entirely with whatever proposal the chairperson has brought forward. But to realign it in totality with the sector that it will foresee or oversee, you have only talked about science and technology. The ministry is the Ministry of Science, Technology, and Innovation. So we should realign the name of the committee to the Committee on Science, Technology, and Innovation, not only science and technology. Thank you.
That's okay, but honorable members, if every time the president realigns names in cabinet, we have to come and amend the rules, we will have a problem. I think our rules should have general capture of sectors, because that the innovation bit just came recently. It was not there before. So it might also disappear, in which case. So if we capture the sector broadly, then whatever name they change, it will still be that sector. What do you think? Because we're not corresponding directly to what the ministry is called. That is why sometimes you have, I think there was a time when one committee was handling 2 sectors. The one on tourism and something, there were 2. And then a particular ministry was split into 2. One to deal with natural resources, another one was doing tourism or something like that. So might need to, yes, Chair, that is your bid, not for the Speaker. Amendment, can we handle the issue of a jury, then we come to that amendment?
Right, Honorable Speaker, the committee has no objection over including the word innovation, keeping in mind your wise guidance that science and technology captures the spirit of what we are doing, and we should not amend the rules every time a new name is given to a ministry by the President. But the committee has no problem to calling this new committee, new sectoral committee, the Committee of Science, Technology and Innovation.
So we adopt the amendment from a jury. I put that amendment to add innovation. Will those in favor to add to the contrary? No. Let's have it. Kit Gum.
Thank you very much, Right Honorable Speaker. Right Honorable Speaker, I also wanted to move an amendment that in light of the effect of climate change as a country, I would like to suggest that we have a fully fledged committee that can fast track the effects of climate change, the adaptation and mitigation. Right Honourable Speaker, and as Parliament of Uganda, we can have periodical reporting so that we can address this problem in totality. As it stands, Right Honourable Speaker, we are relying so much on a forum which is doing good work, but as Parliament, it is not really answerable to the House. And therefore, I move that, Right Honourable Speaker and colleagues, we create this climate change so that we are able to address this problem in totality. I beg to move.
Was this matter brought to you, Chair? Please, on the record.
Right Honorable Speaker, I spoke to the member for Kitgum today, and she explained to me why she wasn't able to appear before the committee. I understood she has had a series of personal tragedies, but this matter did not come before the committee, although we consider it important enough that the committee can take this up and advise the House on a later date on the desirability and how we would fit this committee into the current structure of administration that we have.
Yeah, honorable members, because the issue of creation of a committee is a really substantial affair, and it has to go through a process because there has to be a budget and all these other issues that has to be handled before it is created. So I'm not so sure whether at this stage we can create a committee of the House. I'm not sure. Because should the office of the Speaker should have been consulted and a proper meeting arranged and the details beaten out before actually the committee is proposed to come in. Because if you do it now, what happens? Where is their budget going to come from and things like this? Honorable Anua, could we handle this at a later date?
Thank you very much, Right Honourable Speaker. Indeed, I understand the procedure of creating a committee. I was bringing it to the attention of the House, the importance it carries. And with the comfort that the chair of the committee has already committed, we shall work closely so that we can have this very important committee be put in place. I will gladly work with you, and we see that the normal procedure is met, and maybe at a later date, Right Honourable Speaker, we have this very important committee cater for our. Thank you.
You have already made your speech even before their proposal. The proposal is coming later. Yes, can we finish with this, Rute? Can I finish with this matter? Chair, do I need to adopt that, or that was it? Have I put the question to the amendment proposed? Can I now put the question? Because the member for Kitgum promoted. We adopted the amendment proposed by member for Ajuri. Can I now put the question to the amendment proposed by the committee, which is inclusive of what has been proposed and adopted by member for Ajuri? Can I put the question? Will those in favor type the contrary? No. The ayes have it. Next, Chair.
Rule 170.
Yes, Rute.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, sir, I had a similar thinking with the Honorable from Kitgum, but I am now proposing that under Rule 177, which is not in the report, we should have one of the roles of the committees, the sectoral committees, to examine the subsidiary legislations that this parliament gave powers to the ministers and the different stakeholders. The justification for this, Mr. Speaker, sir, there are many subsidiary legislations and statutory instruments that are being issued by the ministers. As it is, the House only receives them. They are laid here. And then there is no another procedure to actually follow them up. And yet they have a lot of implications. Many of the things we are seeing at the moment causing a lot of excitement in the public as a result of that. For example, the levy by SGS, if I may take an example, and others, because the minister will sit, make the rules and put some fees, and then there it is. Then it just comes to parliament for laying. If there is a committee in place that supervises a sector, then they should be able to look and examine the instruments that relate to their sectors. So I wanted to propose that we have under 177 that the committee is to examine and comment on subsidiary legislations or all statutory instruments that have been issued by the sectors or the ministries they supervise. Thank you.
All the statutory instruments? All the statutory instruments? There used to be a procedure. I don't know we used to have a procedure. It was a mandate of the Legal and Parliamentary Affairs Committee that used to scrutinize statutory instruments, the subsidiary legislation. And this was for purposes of establishing its consistency with the main act, but not whether it was. So that used to be there. But because some statutory instruments are just for information, do we need to scrutinize those that are for information? For example, if they say we are changing the currency point, do we need to send that to committee to scrutinize?
Mr. Speaker, I gave this example. You might be aware that there has been this uproar, how a motorcycle can be inspected at 100,000 and a vehicle at 200,000. And these regulations were made by the minister and laid here. And after that, we don't have any other opportunity to look at it. So I'm thinking where probably levies or fees are involved, we need to probably review it to ensure that it's consistent and is not cheating or is not levying exorbitant amounts on the Ugandans. Just
Honorable members, I think the issue of statutory instrument, we have to be careful. The category of statutory instruments that are laid for information, nobody has to scrutinize it. Because by the time Parliament is giving it away, it knows there is no need for clawback. That is something the minister can handle. Unless it goes wrong, of course, then it will be a public issue. But there are two categories. There are those ones that we withhold. We say, okay, that one, let it first start, but when there's a problem, we'll recall it. And then the other category where it will not start operating until we have approved it. For example, amendment of some schedules, which Parliament reserves the right to approve that amendment. I think those are the categories that need to come. And that one is specific in the Act. Where it has to come back to Parliament for approval, it comes back to Parliament and their processes for handling it. Do we have to specifically say that to examine statutory instruments as a mandate? Agago.
Yes, information. Thank you, Honorable Speaker. Just to add to what you're saying, our concern is the aspect of over-legislating with respect to this proposal. And the other bit is the floodgate, as you clearly articulated. I think we should also be mindful of one of the amendments that has been brought in, which probably could address my friend's concern. While before, most of this subsidiary legislation were just being laid, in the new amendments to the rules, whoever is laying these papers is supposed to give some sort of summary of what they are laying. So I think that was captured in the Rules Committee discussion, proposed amendment. So I think if there is some sort of summary that is going to be brought out, it might help to address the concern of my friend, as opposed to what the status quo was. Thank you.
Thank you. If you look at the Public Enterprises Reform Law, there was a Schedule 1 that Parliament said if you are going to move enterprises from Class A to another class, please bring back the matter to Parliament. Because that one, we intend that government must own 100%. That's the intention of Parliament. If you think it should change, come back to Parliament. But the other enterprises, please go ahead and privatize without having to come back to Parliament. Now that's why I'm saying the law will specify what will happen to that instrument. The law giving the authority to pass the instrument will give how it should be handled. If it says it comes back to Parliament and is brought back to Parliament for prior approval, it is sent to the appropriate committee, just like a bill. But where it is for information, I don't think this House should be sitting down to examine unless an issue comes up. But to sit down and now also send statutory instrument on currency points and fees, things like this, I think let's leave those to the people who have entrusted with the responsibility. Ajuri.
Right Honorable Speaker, in addition to your able guidance, under Article 79, Clause 2 of our national constitution, the institution of Parliament delegates part of its primary role. The honorable member is suggesting subsidiary legislation. That falls under Article 79, Clause 2. Statutory instrument for the minister. Ordinances, district councils. The procedures are very, very clear. And it is signed by the Attorney General. I strongly believe that as a parliament, let's not bite more than we can chew. Let's have what we have and maintain the status quo. Thank you.
Can I put the question on this matter and we proceed, honorable members, please? I put the question to the amendment as proposed. Will those in favor say to the contrary? No. There is have it. In the public gallery this afternoon, we have students from Light College Secondary School, represented by Honorable Bachireki Namboze, Betty, and Honorable Kusasira Peace Mukono. They are here to observe the proceedings. Please join me in welcoming them. You're welcome, the students from Light College. I think they sent two. Okay. Thank you. Chair, next.
Rule 178.
178.
Select committees. Replace the current provision with the following. Sub-rule 1. The House may, at any time upon a motion made after notice given, appoint a select committee to investigate a particular matter. Sub-rule 2. The Speaker shall, in consultation with the government chief whip and the chief opposition whip, appoint members and chairperson of the select committee. Justification. The current practice is that the Speaker, in consultation with the whips, constitute a select committee.
So what are you proposing?
Right Honorable Speaker, the old rule said the select committee to be nominated by the business committee. But in practice, it really has been that the Speaker consults the whips and it is constituted. So the committee thought it fair just to formalize that process.
To formalize consultation?
That the Speaker will consult the whips instead of having it in the rules, which are really not followed.
Okay, can I put the question to that amendment? Will those in favor to the contrary? No. The ayes have it. Chair, next.
Rule 184, removal of chairperson from office. A, amend Rule 184, Sub-Rule 3 as follows. The motion shall not be debated before the expiration of 14 days after a copy of the notice is received by the chairperson. Justification. The chairperson is the subject of removal and should be the right person to be given time before debate on the motion. B, introduce a new sub-clause 7 to read as follows. 7, Sub-Rule 7. The Chief Whip shall designate another chairperson within 7 days after the removal of a chairperson. Justification. To avoid creating a leadership gap in a committee.
Can I put a question to this? Yes, Amudat.
Thank you, Right Honorable Speaker. Mr. Speaker, for me, the Chief Whip here is not coming out clearly because we have the government Chief Whip, we have the Chief Opposition Whip, and we also have the Speaker in the case of the independents. So I'm just wondering to which particular Chief Whip we are leaving the issue of designation in case of a removal of a chairperson.
Chair.
Right Honorable Speaker, we can redraft the new sub-rule 7 to read the Chief Whip or the Chief Opposition Whip or the Speaker shall designate another chairperson within 7 days after the removal of a chairperson.
Bulambuli.
Right Honorable Speaker, when you look at the principal rule 184, it talks about removal of chairperson from office. Then one, a chairperson or deputy chairperson. So I propose that the amendment we are coming up with, we should include chairperson when a copy of notes is received by chairperson or deputy chairperson. Because the justification is talking about the chairperson is a subject of removal and should be the right person to be given time before the debate on the motion. So I propose to include or deputy chairperson.
Chair.
Right Honorable Speaker, we can incorporate that proposal into our amendments so that it will read the motion shall not be debated before the expiration of 14 days after a copy of the notice is received by the chairperson or vice chairperson, whichever one is the subject of the motion. We could then also rephrase the new sub-rule 7 to read the Chief Whip, the Chief Whip, Opposition Whip, or Speaker shall designate another chairperson or vice chairperson within 7 days after the removal of a chairperson or vice chairperson.
Can I now put the question to this?
We could also amend the head note 184, remove of chairperson or deputy chairperson.
Done. That
for
one was
courtesy.
done. That one he did. Can I now put the question to this? Yes, Maracha?
I want to disagree with the committee a bit because they are proposing the whip should be able to designate a vice or a chairperson to the committee to bridge any leadership gaps. My understanding is when a chairperson is removed, the vice can act. And before the House debates the issues raised against the chairperson, I really wonder why the whip should be able to designate someone to fill the position even when there's no verdict on the issues raised against the person.
There is no substantial chair. There will be no substantial chairperson if the chairperson is removed.
But there will be a vice.
The vice will be acting, not substantive chair. Can I put the question to this? Will those in favor?
Of course, I'm not defending myself. Mr. Speaker, I'm just wondering whether it would be procedurally correct. Chairpersons are designated by party whips. And in this rule, we are making it summarily a decision of the committee. There is no option for the whip either to caution the chair, talk to the chair or something. I think we might not be setting a good precedent. Why wouldn't we propose that a report is taken to the whip, the relevant whip, and give probably levels before you finally decide to say, now the committee can decide to dismiss this chair or vice chairperson? I think it might cause some kind of anarchy.
Mr. Speaker, I wanted that amendment to be cross-referenced with the appointments of the chairpersons, because if you are saying the chief whip, the government chief whip, or the chief opposition whip, or the speaker should appoint within 7 days, but you know that the authority is that the chief government chief whip and chief opposition whip and the speaker is in an earlier article, because in the circumstance it's going to create confusion where after the chairperson is removed, the three struggle to appoint the chairperson under the circumstance. So you should cross-reference that one with the previous rules which allow for those three to appoint members to the committee.
Chair?
Right Honorable Speaker, as to the members concerned, I think again that is a technical matter that can be handled by our technical committee, but it is indeed the chief whip or the opposition whip or the speaker who appoints these chairpersons. And I do not see a situation where the opposition whip will try to appoint the chairperson of the Committee of Rules and Privileges when the rules clearly provide that it is appointed by the government chief whip. But this is a technical problem that I believe can be handled by our technical committee. And also, Rule 184 is already in existence in our rules of procedure. And what this amendment is intended to do is actually to protect the chairperson, because before the notice was given to the speaker for the removal of the chairperson. And we are saying the chairperson or vice chairperson who is the subject of the motion should actually be the person, one of the persons protected to receive that notice before he or she is removed.
See, honorable members, by the time these members are now bringing the matter to the House, it is beyond the whip. The matter is beyond the whip. Because if it was still within the whip, that's where they should have gone, even without the rules, to resolve it from there. No. Please, let's not be... Because if they cannot informally resolve it with the whip, and the matter has come here, you can no longer again say, now by rule, take it to the whip. Because that should be an informal process of consultation. And where that failed, the recourse is to the House. Can I put the question to this? Will those in favor say aye? To the contrary, no. The ayes have it. Honorable members, in the public gallery this afternoon, we have students and teachers from Bugambi Secondary School in Sironko, represented by Honorable Nandala Mafabi and Honorable Florence Nambozo. They are here to observe the proceedings. Please join me in welcoming them. We also have members of the Global Network. This one I've introduced. We have students from Divine Secondary School, represented by Honorable Wakaima Musoke Nsereko and Honorable Rosemary Seninde. They have come to observe the proceedings. Please join me in welcoming them. You're welcome. We also have next chair.
Right Honorable Speaker.
Rule 193.
Tororo County.
Thank you, Right Honorable. I'm sorry to take this house back a little. I stepped out when they were looking at this rule. I would like to propose an amendment to amend Rule 175 2N, which reads as follows. N reads Information, Science and Communication Technology. I would like to amend as follows, that the name of the committee be changed to Committee on Information, Communication Technology and National Guidance. Justification: to avoid an overlap in mandate with the Committee of Science, Technology and Innovation. Then the Committee of ICT carries out an oversight role on the Ministry of ICT and National Guidance. It is therefore critical that national guidance is one of the subjects to be examined by the committee. Thank you.
Chair.
Right Honorable Speaker, the committee has no objection to that amendment.
I put the question to that. Will those in favor say to the contrary? No. Chair.
Rule 193. Report to be signed by...
Thank you, Right Honorable Speaker. I'd like to propose a new rule after Rule 192 to the effect that reports of committees should include an assessment of gender and equity, of human rights, and of sustainable development goals. I beg to submit.
Is there, Chair, is there a general provision relating to committees? Can we house that in the general provisions? Or are we now dealing with the general provisions? No, operational committees generally. So that's where we are now. Yes, that's where we are.
Chair.
Yes.
We can't invent the wheel in the rules. Because when we talk about our rules requiring the gender certificate compliance, and the other one is, I forget it, the two, the actual imports direct from the Public Finance Management Act. So if we intend to introduce another certificate of human right compliance, I don't know under what primary law we are going to insert the rule. I think we cannot invent the wheel here. This is just rules which must be in line with the primary laws.
Chair.
Right Honorable Speaker, in our amendments to Rule 137 and 138, we specifically provided for a certificate of gender responsiveness.
Thank you.
Right Honorable Speaker, we did not provide for human rights compliance, and we are not asking for certificate of compliance, but it is the responsibility of this House to make sure that all government programs are human rights compliant and that they take forward the agenda of sustainable development goals. So if we have already provided for gender compliance, we can still provide for human rights and sustainable development goals. I beg to submit, Right Honorable Speaker.
No, but Honorable, the point that was made by the member for Padire is that those ones are housed in the Act. We are now bringing those provisions to the rules. Now, if you bring this one that is not housed in any Act, how do we anchor it in the rules? That was the point made by the member for Padire. Can I put the question to this matter, honorable members? I put the question, will those in favor try to the contrary? No. There is have it, yes?
Rule 193. Report to be signed by the chairperson and members. Insert sub-rule immediately after sub-rule 2 to read as follows. Sub-rule 3. Any member's initial or signature appended to a report shall not be withdrawn. Justification: to ensure that members do not withdraw their signatures.
Honorable member, you want to withdraw your signature? Can I put the question to this?
Yes, right on, Speaker.
No, the member for Chua rose first.
Okay. I think, thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, this rule, when we are considering the amendment, should be also considered in tandem with the Rule 194, which is the minority report. There is a circumstance whereby even the chairperson who has conducted, for example, the business of the committee may not necessarily agree with the report of the entire membership and would actually agree with the minority report. So what happens in that kind of circumstance? Should he sign the minority report and leave the majority report? And it has really, you know, I think it causes some kind of challenges in
honorable
terms of
members.
that. Thank you.
Honorable members, this whole thing about minority report, I think we need to understand it properly. I have not found in my life in Parliament a situation where a member disagrees with the entire report. I have not found it. A member will agree with the rest of the report, but disagree on one or two issues. So you agree with the report, but you sign out your disagreement. That is why even when you are signing international treaties, you sign with reservations. You sign, say, but this particular article will not be bound by. That's called reservation. So you sign because you agree with the rest of the report. But on the area where you disagree, you voice that out, that yes, we agree, but on this, my point of disagreement with the rest of the committee on this subject is this. So there's no conflict in signing a report, the main report, and signing a minority report. No, there's no conflict. So please, if you agree with the rest of the report, don't fear signing both reports. Yes, unless you are saying you disagree with the entire report of the committee. Well, that one would be a situation that can still be anticipated by the rules.
Yes.
No, I'm not opening debate on these matters, honorable members. We don't have time. If we are going to, no, please,
Mr. Chairman.
Please.
There's something very important.
Please, everything is important, but please listen to the chair first. Let's process these things properly. Because if I have 4 members standing at the same time, that means we want to open debate, and I don't have the time for doing debates right now. If you don't want to amend that rule, we just leave it as it is. We proceed. So, Chair, where are we?
We are on Rule 193, which really is just about signing. It doesn't matter whether it is the minority report or the report. It's just where you have signed, you should not withdraw. That's all.
That is the amendment. Where you have already signed your signature, the committee is saying you should not be calm again and say, no, I don't want to sign the report, so I want to remove my... That's what it is being proposed. So let's talk about that. Kilak South.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Right Honorable Speaker, given the level of technology now that we have, I remember in the 9th Parliament, whereby the committee members sign a report. The chairperson and the vice chairperson went aside and changed the content of the report when members had already signed. Therefore, Right Honorable Speaker, if you are tying members never to withdraw their signatures, it means we shall put honorable members into danger. Because
but
any person...
Please, that one was cured. Now you sign on each page. Now you sign on each page. Are you saying that they can even take the signatures page and the photocopy and... Please.
Right Honorable Speaker. Right Honorable Speaker.
No.
That's why I'm saying, given the...
Okay, let me put this matter to vote.
Yes.
Let's put it to vote. Please, no procedure at this time. Let me put the matter to vote. The issue is, where you have already signed, should you be allowed to unsign? Okay, honorable members, please. I put the question to the amendment as proposed by the chair, that once you have signed the report, you should not be given the authority to withdraw your signatures. That is the proposal from the committee. I put the question that. Will those in favor say aye? To the contrary, no. The ayes have it. Next.
Rule 197. Special...
Procedure.
Right Honourable Chair. The procedure point I'm raising on is there is tabling of the debate.
There is what?
Tabling of the debate. Of the report. And there is the time between signing and bringing the report here. Chair, if before the report is tabled and I want to withdraw my signature, why must I be stopped from withdrawing my signature? My understanding is that once the report is laid here, that is when you cannot be allowed to withdraw your signature, because you may defeat debate on the report. But if it is before the report finds its feet here, why should I not be allowed to withdraw my signature?
You rose on procedure. The procedure you are raising is not proper. We have taken.
So would it not be procedure right for me to be allowed to withdraw my signature before the report is tabled?
In fact, your proposal itself is not procedurally right. Because we have already moved from that point. Yes, Bunya.
Yeah, Right Honourable Speaker, I'm still not happy with what we have just passed now here. When we were recalling in Parliament the other time during the Navanda death, members realized that the people who were mobilizing them had not signed, and for them they had signed.
That's not a report. We're talking about report.
Mr. Speaker.
Procedure.
Mr. Speaker, thank you so much. Mr. Speaker, since we are dealing with the general functions of committees, I would like to bring to the knowledge of this House that over time, I have noticed that there is no linkage between, say, standing or accountability committees and sessional committees. What do I mean? While accountability committees look...
No, Honorable Member, propose the amendment, then speak to it. Don't do it the other way around. What do you want to introduce?
I propose that the resolutions after adoption of this parliament, of the reports of the accountability committees, be processed and forwarded to relevant sessional committees for their use during budget consideration.
Chair?
As information.
Right Honorable Speaker, the Committee of Rules invited submissions from members of this House over a very long period of time. And most of the members appeared before this committee. And what I would like to point out is that it really is unfair to the committee to do its work over all this time and then come to the floor and receive new proposals. The chairperson...
Order, Mr. Speaker.
Point of order.
Mr. Speaker, we are in this House to help the committee process the report so that it becomes part of the documents of Parliament. Is the Honorable Chair in order to separate himself from the rest of the House? We are debating and we are bringing amendments to make these rules more useful to us. I think that should be the spirit. Is it therefore in order to insinuate that we are wasting their time?
Honorable members, the reason these matters are sent to committee is to facilitate the processing, the interrogation, the consultation, so that by the time the matter comes here, we are properly guided. This issue of waiting when we are debating and then you bring a substantial amendment can derail this House. I'll give you an example. Look at your Article 8 capital A. 8 capital A. When the 1995 Constitution was adopted by the Constituent Assembly, they intended that the directive principle of state policy and all those things should never be part of the Constitution, should be as they are, directive principles of state policy. I presented a report here. In the course of the debate like we are doing now, a member from the front bench rose and proposed Article 8 capital A. In other words, the entire meeting of the Constituent Assembly was struck down by one proposal in the course of a committee handling this issue on the floor. I said, Mr. Speaker, we have not analyzed this. We cannot understand the full implication of what the proposal is. But it was so popular, it passed. Now, as we speak now, the whole directive principle of state policy is now is part of the Constitution, which was never intended. So that is the importance of having these matters interrogated by committees. I'll give you another example. It happened, in fact, why committees are important. In the UK, marriage was by an act of parliament, and so was divorce. So for you to have a divorce, it had to be declared by an act of parliament. You would come and propose a bill that this marriage be annulled, and parliament would vote on it. That's how tough it was. So the mayor of the city of London had a problem of having his divorce effected. He could not find any grounds to bring this matter to parliament. So when they were bringing the waterworks bill to parliament, he put a clause inside there, annulling his marriage. So the House came, because then there were no committees. The House came, they deliberated, and they passed the bill into an act, because nobody saw the details. He went back home and started waving it to his wife, say, out, out, out. Say, how? Say, I got the divorce here. Went to the Waterworks Bill Act and extracted a section and say, you are out. The divorce is there. So they had to come back to Parliament to delete that clause. That is why the committees are important. So, honorable members, it's important for us to engage with the committees. So the chairman is right in not associating himself with the processes that he has never interrogated. He's right. So that if the House is taking a decision, it takes the decision as the House, but not binding the chair as part of the decision. Because, yes, I speak this with authority. The chair is saying, I will not be bound, but the House can take a decision on it. Because the committee interrogated these matters. So that if there are mistakes made in the course of these issues, the decision we are taking, the committee cannot be blamed. The chair is right. So you see, in order, he is very much proceeding properly and protecting integrity of his committee. So if you want to propose your amendment, propose it to the House. Why I ask the chair is to find common ground. If the chair is inclined to accept, even if it was not before the committee, like the one that was proposed from Tororo, it was not before the committee, but they consulted. And he says, no, that one we have consulted, it is not something bad, so we can accept it. That's why I give the latitude to the chair. If the chairman says we will not agree with that, I'm not saying stop there. You will now propose to the House and put the vote.
Thank you so much, Right Honorable Speaker. Right Honorable Speaker, it's in good spirit. And I was thinking that, and actually as I appeared before the committee, submitting the would-be proposals, our proposals for amendments, I want to state here that not many of them, actually none of them was picked, was taken up, but I submitted a whole write-up of amendments. So, Mr. Speaker, I think here and now we can realize and agree that this is not an amendment in bad faith, because we need to produce to be coherent in the way we do our work.
Chair.
So I propose an amendment that the reports, the resolutions of accountability committees that consider the Auditor General's report upon adoption by this House be extracted and forwarded to the relevant sessional committees as information to use during consideration of financial budget, annual budgets. I think that would give us good information as we consider budgets.
Can I put the question as amendment, honorable members? Yes. I put the question to amendment as proposed by the member for Soroti District to amend in the terms proposed by the member, that there should be linkage between the standing committees and the sectoral committees. I put the question for the adoption of the amendment. Will those in favor say to the contrary? No. The noes have it. Yes?
Yes, Honorable Speaker. Right Honorable Speaker, I know from after 193, we are going to 197. And when you look at 193 report to be signed by the chairperson and members, it is very clear on the general report of the committee, to the extent that actually sub-rule 6 says the report of the committee shall form part of the record of the House. But Right Honorable Chair, on 194, minority report, which sometimes actually gives us the other side of the story, which is so authentic also. There's no provision on stating on whether this report also forms part of the record of the House, and does not even provide for whether it can be adopted, and if it is to be adopted, who should move. Under the report of the committee on 193.5, it says the chairperson or a member of the committee may move in the House that the report from the committee be adopted. Now, this gives me an impression that the minority report is just a by the way.
No, honorable member, have you read 194.1? The minority report is supposed to be part of the main report. That's what it is. It should not be a standalone. In other words, in fact, this practice which has also cropped up should be curbed, where the main report is filed today in the House, and then you come 3 months later with a minority report. Because your area of disagreement, you voice it in the meeting. Say, Mr. Chair, Madam Chair, on this issue, I disagree. I will file a minority report. And then you process your minority report in the course of the preparation of the main report. You submit them together. The chair presents the main report, your opportunity is given to the person of the minority report to present the minority report. They are handled together. That's what should be happening. It is not a separate report, it is part of the report. A dissenting judgment is not a separate judgment, it's the same case. Okay? You don't say after they have read the judgment, everything, the person has been acquitted from the jail, or property has been taken, then you say, no, I have a dissenting opinion on that judgment. So that one is very well taken care of. Yes, Bukonjo West.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Chair, I beg to take you backwards a little, and this is about Rule 178. 1. The House may at any time upon a motion made after notice given appoint a select committee to investigate a particular matter. Mr. Speaker, sir, a select committee, as you're fully aware, should be a committee with the full force of the relevant capabilities. Now, I wonder, Mr. Speaker, whether it would really not do us good if we amended this to say the House may at any time, upon a motion made after notice given upon a select committee comprising of members with the relevant competencies. Now, the reason why I'm saying this, colleagues, is good spirit.
Order.
Right, Honorable Speaker, we moved an amendment vesting the power in the Speaker to nominate the members of the Select Committee. And in the wisdom of the Speaker will know who is competent on this matter when he's making the appointment. The argument my brother is bringing is to the extent of demeaning that power or the ability of the Speaker to determine who is having the capability. Is in order to proceed with that kind of submission.
Honorable member, that matter was handled. Can we leave it like that? Please. Erute?
Thank you very much, Right Honorable Speaker. Mr. Speaker, sir, on 193, I remember very well in the 8th Parliament, we were assigned a selective committee on looking at the relationship between members of Parliament, public, and then the police. And then when we did our work very well, signed the report, the chairman also did the same. The chairman disappeared with the report up to date. Now, where are we covering this kind of behavior when the report is not brought back to Parliament? Because we should have dealt with this decisively. And unless we think it will not repeat itself in future, because we were disappointed to learn that the chairperson, Honorable Yombi Tembo, was awarded, after disappearing with that report, he was awarded to be it was Attorney General after that. But up to date, what are we doing with that report, which should have helped the House and the country? Thank you very much.
Okay, that discussion is not right here at the moment. Can we deal with that when such issues arise? Please. Let's proceed.
Rule 197. Special powers of committees. Replace paragraph D with the following. Shall have the powers of the High Court for Roman 1, enforcing the attendance of witnesses and examining them on oath, affirmation, or otherwise. Roman 2, compelling the production of documents. And Roman 3, issuing a commission or request to examine witnesses abroad. Justification. This is the position provided for under Article 90, subsection 3C of the Constitution. Insert a new paragraph E as follows. E shall have the powers to confine for any specific periods any recalcitrant witnesses and cite any person for contempt. Justification. This is a consequential amendment arising out of amendment to paragraph D.
Can I put the question to these members? Yes. Songora North and Ajuri.
Mr. Speaker, I have some reservation on this. I just wanted to know from the chairperson, especially with having the powers to confine for any specific period, and the period is not mentioned, but also to Mr. Speaker, aware that Parliament is not court, Parliament is not police, that when a scenario of that nature happens, Right Honorable Speaker, it is prudent that the witness, yes, can be confined, but we need to be particular with the period, Right Honorable Speaker, because we may be misinterpreted to be taking powers of police and court. And to this, Right Honorable Speaker, I wish to actually propose in the vein that it should not be more than 1 day, and the past, because when you confine Right Honorable Speaker as a committee or select committee or committee of Parliament, you should actually hand over the witness to police. So Right Honorable Speaker, to leave it open like this, it may be abused, and therefore
I need to apologize. The information I'm going to give you may not be friendly. Because Article 90, Clause 3C on the committees of Parliament states, shall have the powers of the High Court for 1, enforcing the attendance of witnesses and examining them on oath, affirmation, or otherwise; 2, compiling the production of documents; and 3, issuing a commission or request to examine witnesses abroad. I think what this amendment has done is simply to pick what is in the grand norm, that is the Constitution. And I think any attempt to convince Parliament and struggle to sway us away from this position of the Constitution may be unconstitutional, actually unconstitutional, I think.
No, the member's point is, what about the issue of confinement?
Yes.
Because the purposes for which
Point of information.
The purposes for which Parliament does this is clear. Parliament wants information and correct information. That is why the examination is under oath. So the issue of confinement, how does it facilitate this process? That's what the member wants to know. And if it is going to be a temporary situation, why don't you say so? So that after the sitting of the committee, you hand over the person instead of, because you don't even have the facilities to. Yes, I think the point is made. Let the chair speak to you.
That's why you're a speaker, and you have correctly understood it. Right.
No, can he now respond? Yes. Because you have raised the matter already.
So, Right Honorable Speaker,
you have already raised the matter. Let him now respond.
That's the issue of contention, confinement, and also the time of confinement.
Chair.
Right Honorable Speaker, in the first instance, what the committee was doing with this amendment was to clearly distinguish the powers that come directly, are derived directly from the Constitution, from those powers that Parliament has arrogated by implication. Now, as to the duration for confinement, the committee could probably propose that it is a day or a week, but what is important, I think, is to leave it to the discretion of the committee to decide, because these cases arise from the interaction of the specific witness with the committee. I don't know that the committee maybe could propose that the witness is detained until the meeting is over, then is released. But what is the purpose for confining the witness? What would the purpose be served if he was confined for 1 day? Would it be served if the witness was confined for 1 hour? That is the dilemma of the committee at the moment.
Honorable members, this is nothing new. What is being proposed is not new. I don't even know why you are proposing it. Because it's in the rules, it's been in the rules for all these years. The power to confine is there. But I'm just wondering why you have left out the issue of contempt. Is it there? Yeah, and person for contempt. So why are we, Honorable Zoe, the rules are there, they're clear. Yes, do you now want to remove this? Can I put the question, we proceed? Yes, Ajuri.
Mr. Speaker.
Right Honorable Speaker, whereas we have the powers of the High Court in compelling a witness to do ABCD, what I would want to bring forth is the fact that in certain instances, these witnesses are confined within the presence of Parliament. For us to have clarity and to avoid the risk of one day this institution being drugged for confining a witness in an area which is not gazetted, I would move that we clarify on that particular provision that let the confinement be supported by Parliament in our rules, but in a gazetted place. I have seen this in the ongoing land probe. Once a witness is referred to CID, either the person, the witness, is moved to Wandegea, but we cannot continue confining people within the presence of Parliament. I believe there is no room here gazetted for confinement. I thank you, Mr. Speaker.
But how has it been done? What is confinement within the meaning of the rules and the practice of Parliament? Which chair has ever ordered confinement of a witness? How do you do it? Public accounts, how do you do it? How do you confine people?
Mr. Speaker, it is actually not confinement because we have CID officers attached to the committee. If we see a matter that needs investigation, we send them to the CID. They go and make a statement. It is up to the CID to decide whether to confine them, and they take them to CPS.
So the power so how do you, so that's the procedure, that's the practice and procedure. So how clear do you still want it? Kumi municipality, do you want to be confined?
Thank you so much, Right Honorable Speaker. I think really when we are dealing with matters of confinement, sometimes some of these people get highly embarrassed. At the end, you find out that the person was...
No, the issue is not they are going to be embarrassed. The issue is, because if they invite you, please. We're not talking about people being embarrassed. We're talking about you coming, refusing to give information. Okay, then you have a right to be embarrassed.
The suggestion is, let it be so clear. If the person is handed to the CID, for how long?
That is for the CID.
Speaker, Honorable Speaker. Yeah, Honorable Speaker, I think what is good for us, the word we have is confinement. Now the issue raised by the Honorable MP for Ajuri is about the facilities, availability of the facilities for confinement here. By the standards of the Uganda Police Management, Parliament here is a full police post with a director. Therefore, what is required in the structure and the architecture of Parliament is to construct the room for confinement. Yes, so that we have a cell here, which is good for the purpose. Thank you, sir.
Mr. Speaker.
Honorable members, this is the procedure that has been working ever since the rules of Parliament were enacted under the new constitution, giving Parliament the powers of the High Court. Is there any need for us to review that? Can I put the question to this, please? Will those in favor say aye to the contrary? No. The ayes have it. Next.
The committee proposes a new rule on action taken reports. Insert a new rule immediately after Rule 208 as follows. Action taken reports. A minister shall submit to Parliament an action taken report detailing what actions have been taken by the relevant ministry following the resolutions of Parliament and observations or recommendations of a parliamentary committee. Justification: this will ensure that Parliament resolutions and recommendations are implemented or adhered to.
Yes. Bukonjo.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. And Mr. Chair, this is a good provision. My only thing is that it is kind of like open-ended. How long is required, or how much time is required for the minister's response or action? And also, number two, could we explore the possibility of inserting in a sanction in the event that the minister does not comply to this particular rule? What happens? Because, I mean, the existing rules mandate the minister to give a response in two weeks. But we've seen situations where ministers don't really adhere to the same rule. So this is a great opportunity, Mr. Chair, and I think it's important for us to create space for a sanction provision. Probably, for instance, Madam Minister, in the event that you don't comply to this particular rule, then the Speaker certainly can refer you to the Rules Committee. Thank you.
Yes, Honorable Minister.
Thank you, Right Honorable Speaker. I just wanted to comment on the issue of observations, actions required by ministers on observations. I agree with resolutions and recommendations, but observations, in my understanding, in the layman's language, are comments which are neither here nor here as far as an action is concerned, on which a concrete position has not been taken by either Parliament or by that committee. So how will a minister act on an observation which has been made in a committee? I think when a committee or Parliament wants an action to be taken, they reduce it into a resolution or a specific recommendation. So I would suggest to the Chair that you remove the word observations. Thank you.
Chair.
Right Honorable Speaker, indeed the committee has no objection to removing the word observation from this recommendation, in which case the new proposed rule would read: a minister shall submit to Parliament an action taken report detailing what action have been taken by the relevant ministry following the resolutions of Parliament and recommendations of a parliamentary committee.
Is it and or? Is it and or?
Okay. A minister shall submit to Parliament an action taken report detailing what actions have been taken by the relevant ministry following the resolutions of Parliament or recommendation of a parliamentary committee.
But plenary also makes recommendations. Can we, the principle is captured, we leave out observations, can we draft it to capture the...
Yes, the new draft.
Issue? What about the time frame? Is it necessary?
It's necessary.
Time frame, do you want to put a time frame?
Honorable colleagues, the time frame, in my opinion, would be given by the Speaker to the Minister depending on the resolution. Because for me to say 2 weeks blanket really does not capture the spirit of fairness.
Because I think, Honorable Member, that should be on a case-by-case basis. The issue of time frame should be on a case-by-case basis. Because you can say 2 weeks, and yet the investigations alone could take 6 months. You see, so, like we always do, say, Honorable Minister, how much time would you need for this particular one? Then they can deal with this.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. My question had 2 components. The second component was, what happens? Can we create a provision or a space for sanctions, for non-compliance? Sanctions, that's very important. Because that is intended to tame the culture of impunity, where people try to scandalize or trivialize proceedings in the business of Parliament. Honorable sisters and honorable brothers, you've had some people, unfortunately, saying resolutions of Parliament are not binding.
And
that is tragic.
And indeed they are not.
They're not binding?
There are specific resolutions that are binding. For example, if Parliament should pass a constitutional resolution, that becomes binding. But the rest of the resolutions are advisory. That is the rule.
We need to amend the rule, Mr. Speaker. No. We need an amendment.
That amendment will be in vain.
It's been failing. Mr. Speaker, last submission on that one, I'm wondering whether it's not still possible to put a specific sanction. In the event that, we get non-compliance from the responsible minister.
We already have a general provision on contempt of Parliament. Can we proceed on the members? Can I put the question to this now, with the drafting done now? Can I put the question, that amendment? All those in favor say to the contrary, no. The ayes have it. Next. Yes, Honorable Sabiti, you had an issue there.
Thank you, Right Honorable Speaker. I was thinking that these actions taken on the report should actually be included in a ministerial policy statement. The other time we were listing contents of what a ministerial statement should contain. Even these actions should also be listed there so that they are looked at that stage. And then probably some more.
Well, then you might
that's what I would suggest if they appeared there every financial year in the ministerial policy statement.
Suppose it happens now, then you are waiting for the ministerial policy statement in April next year for it to be captured there. Please, let's proceed. Let's proceed.
Right Honorable Speaker, before we go to the general
Honorable Member for Mitoma.
Right Honorable Speaker,
I was wondering whether the chairman had changed the tone of his voice.
Right Honorable Speaker, before we go to the general provisions, I wanted to beg your indulgence to go back to Rule 192. Right Honorable Speaker, the argument given by Honorable Anwaraj was that there is no act of parliament on human rights. But Right Honourable Speaker and honourable members, there is a comprehensive Bill of Rights in the Constitution. Chapter 4, which guarantees human rights for the people of Uganda, is the longest chapter in the Constitution with a whole 38 sections, and it is comprehensive enough. I would like to, Right Honourable Speaker, recently we received a report from the Committee on Science and Technology, and they had a section on gender and equity, which has rightly been provided for under Rule 138 on the budget. They had the report of Science and Technology had a section on human rights. They had a section on sustainable development goals. And we all agreed that this was the way that we wanted to go as a parliament, because at the end of it, we want to make sure that we realize the sustainable development goals, issues of rights, issues of health, issues of maternal health, issues of education, issues of security, those 17 goals and their targets. Right Honourable Speaker, what we are asking here is that all committees should have just a general awareness of the need for government programs to be human rights compliant, to take forward the agenda of human rights in this country.
Can you restate the amendment?
Right Honourable Speaker, I would therefore like to propose that we insert a new rule that the committee report will have an assessment on human rights and B, on sustainable development goals. I beg to submit.
Would it be a new rule, or do you want it to go along with where there is gender and equity? Do you want it to open that and include those two, or do you want a standalone rule?
Right Honourable Speaker, it could be included under 138, but that is specifically for the budget. It would be nice indeed if the budgets could guarantee that all government programs are human rights compliant and that they move Agenda 2030 forward. But I am aware that for gender and equity, there is a certificate that is required and issued under Ministry of Finance, issued by the Equal Opportunities Commission. But we could have it there, Right Honourable Speaker.
Honourable members, that is the proposal. Can I put the question to the inclusion of those principles?
But,
Yet,
Right Honourable Speaker,
Odu?
the Bill of Rights, as the honourable member has rightly pointed out, is a very long, it's actually the longest. I don't see how we shall operationalize it here, given that even the Constitution, in terms of hierarchy of laws, is higher. So we are automatically bound to go by the provisions of the Constitution. So bringing it here, I really don't see what value is going to add.
Right Honourable Speaker, that is for matters of emphasis, to make sure that we are all aware and that we are all going to look out for the human rights.
You have already spoken. If there is something you have not yet said, you will not be able to say it. Can I put this matter to vote? Can I put the matter to vote to the inclusion of those? Please. Can I put the question? Yes. I put the question to the amendment as proposed by the Honourable Member for Mitoma, who is also chair of the Human Rights Committee of this House. I put the question for that amendment. Will those in favor to the contrary? No. Aye. The noes have it. You see, honourable members, honourable members, the problem that you have from both sides is that you only hear your side. You don't hear the other side. That's the only problem. For me, I hear both, so I can judge. So, and yet for you from your location, you could think you have been loudest. You have not heard the rest. And secondly, I am not voting, so I listen. For you, you are voting. You can't listen to what you have. Next, Chair.
Right, Honorable Speaker, the committee proposes to insert a new rule immediately before Rule 209 as follows. Consideration of the Treasury Memoranda. The Speaker shall, after receiving the Treasury Memoranda, submit it to the Auditor General for auditing in accordance with the National Audit Act 2008. Justification. The rules are not specific on what should be done with the Treasury Memoranda once received by Parliament under the Public Finance Management Act, Section 53. This is important for purposes of completing the accountability cycle.
I put the question to that honorable members. Will those in favor say aye? To the contrary, no. The ayes have it. Next.
The committee proposes a new rule immediately after Rule 215 as follows. Expunging from the official report. Where the Speaker is of the opinion that the words that have been used in debate are defamatory, indecent, or unparliamentary or undignified, the Speaker shall order that such words be expunged from the official record of Parliament. Justification. The amendment will provide for situations when words or phrases may be expunged from the Hansard.
Okay, can I put the question to that? Will those in favor say aye? To the contrary, no. The ayes have it. Next. Procedure.
Mr. Speaker, thank you so much. I didn't seem to hear how we complete the process after the Treasury Memorandum has have been audited by the Auditor General. It comes back to Parliament. Where does it go? Because it has to come to the floor after a committee has considered it. In our benchmarking in different parliaments, it comes to Public Accounts Committee. I don't know what this House would think, because it has to find its way to the floor through a committee.
I thought it was an audit. It would be like an audit report. Once it comes to Parliament, it's sector driven. Not so. Would it go straight, all of it, to Public Accounts Committee, even if it touches on the issue of local governments? No, the issue is it will come back to Parliament. The auditing, after auditing, it will come back to Parliament. And once it comes back to Parliament, Parliament knows who handles which bit of those issues that have been raised. So if it is central government, if the issues involve central government, it goes to PAC straight, PAC 1. If it has to do with the local governments, it goes to PAC 3, PAC 2. And the other one goes to PAC 3. Would that not be a way to look at it?
Yeah, my problem is it is all amalgamated. So I don't know if this House will be able to sit down and disaggregate, unless we are going to tell the Auditor General to disaggregate it.
I think that should be the standard procedure. In the request, I think we should have this guidance. When we request for these matters on the Treasury Memoranda, which is sent to the Auditor General, is it the Treasury Memoranda? For auditing, it should come in those categories, because that is also how the Auditor General reports. He reports on local governments, he reports on central government, and he reports on state enterprises. The reports are disaggregated already. So even this one should come in that form. Would that be okay? Good. Can we proceed?
Right, Honorable Speaker. The committee had proposed a new rule after Rule 215, expunging from the official report. And it was?
Did we finish that? Did we vote on that? We voted on expunging of, yes.
Okay. Rule 221.
221, yes.
Lapse or reinstatement of parliamentary business upon...
Procedure?
Honorable Chair, the heading for 215 is expunging from the official report. I thought it should have been from the official record.
Yes, actual record. Record. It's record.
Yeah, right, Honorable Speaker. The heading should read expunging from the official record.
Okay, I put the question that improvement amendment. Will those in favor say to the contrary? No. There is have it. Next, Chair.
Rule 221. Lapse or reinstatement of parliamentary business upon dissolution of the House. Insert a new sub-rule 4 as follows. Sub-rule 4. The resolution of Parliament referred to in sub-rule 2 shall be passed in the second sitting of the first session of Parliament. Sub-rule 5. Any business reinstated shall be handled and completed in the first session of Parliament. Justification: to provide for a binding mechanism for handling business that has been reinstated.
Can I put the question to this?
Chair, I think this is a very dangerous precedent. The reason is here, Right Honorable Speaker. Sometimes we have bills. Let me give an example of the biotechnology bill and biosafety. That if a new parliament, like 10th parliament, has come on board, the new members, because of the technicality of the bill, must be given ample time to understand the bill in totality. In the effect that we have moved to so many other places, even for us who are in the 9th parliament, we have accompanied the members of the 10th parliament to so many other places to acquaint ourselves with the benchmark findings of different countries. So basing on some of the technicalities, for us to say that once such a business is reinstated, it must squarely be handled in the first session of Parliament. I think like 5, any business reinstated shall be handled and completed in the first session of Parliament. I think it becomes technically very hard. Chair, I'm praying for your indulgence. Right Honorable Speaker, I'm praying for your indulgence to prevail in this matter, that we cannot tie the hands of Parliament to, as squarely as possible, strictly process that business and finish it in the first session of Parliament, when people are not well abreast with the information. I think that's this amendment we need to reconsider.
But honorable members, the rule is that a parliament must finish its work. So why are we making the exception so perfect? At least that is how we want to proceed. So after failing to finish it in the other parliament, and they have had the courtesy of now allowing another parliament to take it over, you still want it to be handled for years? Really? No, please, because you see, it should have been finished by the other parliament. Now this new parliament has had the courtesy of bringing it. Should it take more years when it took more years in the other parliament? Really? So now they are trying to cap the exception. Say, okay, let the exception be there, but please finish with it in the first session. If you cannot finish with it, withdraw it and reintroduce it to this new parliament. Yes. In other words, you are not saying throw it away. It is up to the person who is interested in the bill to bring it back as a fresh bill to a new parliament.
Mr. Speaker, I wanted to mention that I thought the business committee had a special duty and powers to determine what can actually come to the floor. So by bringing this provision here, we are actually undermining the work of the business committee.
No,
we should allow the business committee
giving guidance on what should happen. Honorable member, I'll put the question to this. If you don't want it, vote against it. If you want it, vote for it. I put the question to this amendment. Will those in favor say to the contrary? No. The ayes have it. Next.
Rule 222. assistance to persons with disabilities. Under Sub-Rule 2, replace the words keep secret with take oath of secrecy. Justification: an oath of secrecy is the more ideal in the circumstances.
I put the question that amendment. Will those in favor say aye? To the contrary, no. The ayes have it.
Right Honorable Speaker, the committee proposes that we insert a new rule immediately after Rule 225 to read as follows: Publication of the Rules of Procedure of Parliament. The Speaker shall, as soon as is practicable, cause the publication of these rules in the Gazette. Justification: Section 19 of the Interpretation Act, Chapter 3, provides that all specified instruments shall be published in the Gazette and shall be judicially noticed.
I put the question that. Will those in favor say aye? To the contrary, no. The ayes have it. Chair.
Right Honorable Speaker, I am pleased to inform you that Appendix B on page 26 was passed by this House on the 19th of January, and the table for Appendix H is really just to align it to, this is the timeline for Rule 137 and 138, as has been amended already. Okay. So that brings us to the end of the amendment to the Rules of Procedure.
What about those that was stood over? We stood over two rules.
We stood over 167.
Chair, we stood over 148, Rule 148, and 153. No, 148 and
167.
153. You want us to start? Have we redone the draft of 167?
Yes.
167 Committee on Government Assurances, has it?
Yes.
Has the harmonization been done?
It has been done. Yes.
Who has the text? Chair?
The new Rule 167 to be rephrased to read as follows. Rephrase Sub-Rule 1, A and B to read as follows. The Government Assurances and Implementation Committee shall A. Record and scrutinize the assurances, promises, and undertakings given by any minister, Prime Minister, President, Vice President in the House from time to time. B. Monitor and evaluate the fulfillment of government assurances. Sub-Rule 2. Insert the current Sub-Rule 2. B. Replace Sub-Rule 3 with the following Sub-Rule. 3. The chairperson of the committee shall present a report to the House on the status of implementation and the extent to which the assurances, promises, and undertakings have been fulfilled, withdrawn, or broken from time to time. 4. The report submitted under Sub-Rule 3 shall be debated by the House. Sub-Rule 5. The leader of government business shall respond to the report and the issues raised during the debate. Sub-Rule 6. The committee shall submit to each sectoral committee a list of government assurances that are pending fulfillment during the consideration of policy statements and budget estimates. Sub-rule 7 would just be an insertion of the current sub-rule 4.
Is that okay, members? Can I put the question to this amendment now? Yes. Will those in favor say aye, to the contrary? No. The ayes have it. Yes, Chair, the clauses that were stood over. There's 148 and 153.
Right Honorable Speaker.
Now I'm talking about the ones we stood over.
Right Honorable Speaker, the House stood over Rule 148, which the committee proposed to be amended by inserting a new sub-rule immediately after sub-rule 7 as follows. Sub-rule 8, notwithstanding sub-rule 6, the Committee on Human Rights shall be chaired and deputized
Procedure?
Chair, sometimes back, I think we had issues of whether the pledges made by the President will constitute government assurance. The practice of the House has been that those assurances have been captured, because whatever is a pledge by the President made as a proclamation and followed by directive is immediately taken by the line ministries and captured for government implementation. And I think if we are moving on 167, for example, 1A is talking of the assurances which are or promises or undertakings which are given in the House by the Minister, Prime Minister, President, Vice President. I was thinking before we leave this, we should have also made, so that to correct, because sometimes back you also said we should one day need to consider whether those pledges by the President constitute government assurances. To me...
No, they don't. Assurances to Parliament are assurances made in the House. So if it is made outside, then a member has to find a way of bringing it and making it an assurance of the House.
Yes, Honorable Speaker, this is provided for under sub-rule 4, which has been indicated to be inserted, carried as it is from the old rules to the current rules we are making.
Correct.
So when it is made in the constituency, a member comes here, raises it here, and the leader of government business or someone confirms, then it becomes an assurance.
It then becomes an assurance.
Yes.
But from Padire there, it is tricky. Yes, we are on 148. We're finished with 148?
Yes. 148.
Yes, we're on 148 now.
Yes, we were on one.
We're finished with the ones.
The committee had proposed an amendment to Rule 148 by inserting a new sub-rule immediately after sub-rule 7 as follows. Sub-rule 8, notwithstanding sub-rule 6, the Committee on Human Rights shall be chaired and deputized by independent members of Parliament designated by the Speaker.
So that is... Justification.
Justification. Human rights are inherent and due consideration should not be tagged to the politics of the day.
Butambala.
Right Honorable Speaker, first of all, Human Rights Committee literally should be an accountability committee, because when you recall the history of our country and the actual grounding of our constitution was to ensure that the executive at all times is held accountable. And in our own perspective, this is an accountability committee like any other. I wasn't in Parliament then, but I was informed when we were having a discussion on this issue that the ruling of the speaker then, when the opposition wanted to chair this committee as an accountability committee, was to give it a chance and a trial, and to see if it's chaired by the government side, it will do its duty dutifully. But when you look at the state of human rights in this country, you realize we need to hold agencies fully accountable. And that can best be done if we classify the Human Rights Committee as Public Accounts Committee, one of the Public Accounts Committees. Two, we are stretching the question of independence too far. Uganda made a decision to go multi-party. And we are in a multi-party dispensation.
Point of order.
Order. Right Honorable Speaker, this is Uganda. We move with the laws of the country. We have a constitution. It allows independence to operate. And that's why I'm here. And that's why we are here. Is it in order? Is it in order for you to touch the issue of independence and feel like we should go away from that, and you know that is our total refuge when the country has failed? Are you in order?
The statement was, we are stretching the issues of the independence too far. Uganda has adopted a multi-party system. That was the statement. Is that statement correct? In his opinion, it is correct. But the second part of it is in fact correct, is what the Constitution says. In the year 2005, in the month of July, a resolution was raised by this House and sent to the whole country, and they voted to adopt a multi-party political system. So it's factual. It's actually constitutional. So should I rule him out of order? No.
That's why you should be there for quite many more years. I'm not saying it's solo. Right Honorable Speaker, the point I was trying to articulate was that we deliberately took a decision to go multi-party. And we practice Commonwealth standards in our parliament. And I understand we are members of all those other structures of Commonwealth, including the parliamentary group of the Commonwealth Club. The practice is that when it comes to accountability, if we make a judgment, a conscious judgment as parliament, that PAC should be accountability, should be to hold, the Human Rights Committee should be a watchdog on human rights abuses. And if that's our call and if our judgment, then it should be placed where it belongs. It should be placed where it belongs, and we tackle the issue of human, because it knows no color. The other day, it's the NRM chairman of Masindi. Today it is Kahonda. Tomorrow it can be Kahinda. You never know, the other day it may be me. That's why our bone of contention, Right Honorable Speaker, is that this should be classified as an accountability committee. Independent members in this House, truth be told, some cooperate with the opposition, others, by their own volition, cooperate with the establishment. You'll never know. Information.
Let me just give you, thank you for giving way, Honorable Sivumbi. Much as you are trying to say human rights is an accountability committee, but when you look at the type of accountability human rights exhibited, it is actually accountability to the Constitution. Because when the oppositions are in defiance, they're actually also abrogating human rights. When the government is also not fulfilling certain laws, they're also abrogating human rights. So it therefore proceeds in the situation where Human Rights Committee should be positioned within the independent category of members of parliament to chair. Because it both, looks at both sides. You can abrogate it, or the other side can abrogate it as well. So it's actually positioned very well to be with independence. Thank you very much.
Thank you for information. But just for debating purposes, I don't know which organs of forces of coercion the opposition really has. So chances, let's not stretch this too far. That's why I'm saying, let's not stretch too far. There are almost near zero chances that an opposition that does not command the police, does not command the security apparatus, that has nothing of those instruments, can be a human rights offender. Really? Using which means? Therefore, my bone of contention, Right Honorable Speaker, you know I'm a Democrat, I don't shy away from this.
Thank you, Right Honorable Speaker. I would like to inform the member on the floor that the new guidelines issued by United Nations now recognizes that even private individuals violate human rights. It's not necessarily that it's only government that violate, even companies. So the violations of human rights does not only rest with government. So we are looking at human rights entirety, not only government.
So even independence.
Sorry. So it should, the independent members of parliament should chair the committee, so that we are able to put the opposition accountable, government accountable. Thank you.
Information.
Chair, as I wind up the submission, I don't want to debate forever. As I wind up my submission, we have a human rights report annually in this country. It ranks human rights offenders. This year's human rights report put police as the #1 human rights offender. #2, it put UPDF. Yes, it put UPDF as the #2 human rights offender. I can tell you up to 10. And all of those are government agencies. Therefore, it's so critical going forward, because every single day our role should be to extend the frontiers of democracy, frontiers of enjoying our rights, to ensure that it's never narrowed by anybody. The best people to do so, to put a watchful eye on the government, ensure that these obey without compromise, without undue influence, can only be by members of the opposition. By members of the opposition.
Honorable members.
I beg to.
Honorable members. Honorable members, we debated this matter last time. We stood it over, that we could go and consult and come back. But from the beginning of the debate, it looks like there has been no consultation. Same with the 153. So by directive from the chair, we will go with the status quo of the rules. Both in Rule 148, because we have been there and we have not seen any problem. And also 153, we have been there and we have not seen any problem. It is so ordered.
Procedure, Mr. Speaker.
Which other one was stood over?
Procedure, Mr. Speaker.
Which other one was stood over?
Procedure, Mr. Speaker.
Is that the last one?
Procedure.
Honorable members,
Procedure,
today
Mr. Speaker.
we then have finished with the consideration of the rules of procedure. The rules take effect immediately. Next item. It's done. We'll go with status quo.
Item number 4.
Statement by ministers. Item 4A.
So let's take the petition. Prerogative of the Speaker under Rule 7.
Procedure, Mr. Speaker. Procedure.
Let's handle
Mr. Speaker, procedure.
the petition. Procedure.
Thank you, Right Honourable Speaker. Right Honourable Speaker, yesterday we stood over 3 items and so far sorted out 2. The third one of Appointments Committee is not yet sorted out. Therefore, Right Honourable Speaker, I want to seek your indulgence to see how we can sort out also the issue of Appointments Committee. I thank you, Right Honourable Speaker.
I have just ruled on that. I've ruled on that article. Let's proceed.
Item number 5.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, committee.
Chair,
Please.
Procedure, Chair.
Please.
I'm acting law procedure.
Please. Next item.
Motion for a petition of Parliament moved under Rule 29 of the Rules of Procedure of the Parliament of Uganda of the following companies represented by Honorable Felix Okotogong, MUP Dokoro South County.
Honorable Member? Is it a motion or a petition? It's a petition. Can you amend and read properly?
Right Honourable Speaker, this is a petition to the Parliament of the Republic of Uganda, moved under Rule 29 of the Rule of Procedure of Parliament of Uganda. Mr. Speaker and honourable members, the humble petition of the following companies: A. AK Joe Company Limited, B. Amos Investments, C. Absolute Home Limited, D. Benico Investment Limited, E. Gunya Company Limited, F. JB Trading Agency Limited, G. Abco Color Printers Limited, H. Optic Uganda Limited, I. Appel Engineering Company Limited, J. Menelico Stores, and K. Gerards. Represented by me, Honorable Felix Okotogong, MP, Dokolo County. The humble petitioner saith and states that, honorable members, 1. Your humble petitioners are Ugandan traders who supplied goods to the government of the Republic of South Sudan between the year 2008 and 10, but were never paid. Following a presidential directive to verify all claims against government of the Republic of South Sudan, your petitioners' claims were duly verified and a report was submitted to the Ministry of Finance, Planning and Economic Development. Your petitioners are aware that government of Uganda entered into a bilateral agreement with the government of the Republic of South Sudan on the 22nd day of December 2016 regarding payment of monies owed to Uganda South Sudan traders by the government of the Republic of Sudan. 4. However, under Schedule 1 to the agreement, the government of the Republic of South Sudan has acknowledged debt arising out of only 10 traders without acknowledging the debt it owes your petitioners. Now, therefore, your humble petitioners pray that this Parliament withholds its approval of the bilateral agreement with the government of the Republic of South Sudan and the government of Uganda signed on the 22nd day of December 2016 until the lists of verified companies indicated in Schedule 1 is reviewed to include all companies and traders that have been duly verified and whose claims have been validated. And your humble petitioners, as is duly bound, will ever pray and hereto appended are your humble petitioner's signatures as attached. Mr. Speaker, I beg to move. I lay before Parliament the petition and also the relevant documents. Right, Honourable Speaker, I beg to lay.
Let the records capture that. Honourable members, there was an item that had been proposed, but it had not come on the order paper. It's coming from the Minister of Finance, to the effect that they want to present a request to this House. I have the information, that's why I'm speaking like this. A request to this House to authorize, because the government of Uganda now is going to pay some of the debts on behalf of the government of South Sudan, of the Republic of South Sudan, on an arrangement that had been agreed between the two countries. So because of that, there is a process of consideration of this matter within the Minister of Finance. So, since the matter is being considered by the Minister of Finance, I will refer this petition directly to the Minister of Finance to handle in line with what it is doing right now, so that when it is coming to the House, these issues are already harmonized within those things. Okay? So it stands.
Procedure, Speaker, sir.
So this petition.
Honourable Speaker, sir. Just
this.
Honourable Speaker, sir. Before you do that,
so this petition is referred to the Minister of Finance to handle and report to the House. Procedure from Rakai.
Thank you so much, Right Honourable Speaker. My procedural matter is that the petition has very few members or the companies that were operating in Southern Sudan. So my issue is that government or the ministry, if it is ready, it should come out with a compiled list of all the traders that were operating in Southern Sudan, not just merely those that have influence in government. That is what is portrayed here. They were all Ugandan traders and they are going to use government money to pay them. So we should consider a comprehensive list of all the traders that were in Southern Sudan.
That matter is not before the House. We do not debate petitions. I have used the prerogative of the Speaker. Instead of referring it to a committee, I've referred it to the Minister. We don't debate petition at this, please. We don't debate petitions at this stage. When the Minister comes with whatever he's coming with, whatever she's coming with, then we'll be able to raise these issues with the Minister before we make the approvals that we're talking about. But depending on how the motion comes, it might even be referred to a committee. If it goes to committee, there will be time for interface with the committee on these issues so that it is handled comprehensively. But we cannot start debating a petition or raising matters that are not before Parliament at the moment. Are we okay? You want to debate the petition, Honourable Fungaro? You want to debate the petition?
Procedure. Now, I appeal for your kindness to consider this issue. My problem is the express referral of this matter to the Minister, where there would have been room, if it was handled within Parliament, for more information to be brought here. There are people choking down in West Nile. I have a list even here in my office.
Honourable Fungaro, it cannot be brought here. I would have two options: to refer it to the committee or refer it to the Minister. But I've told you there's a pending motion coming on this issue from the government, which might be referred to the committee or might be exhausted from here, where all these issues you want to raise can be substantially raised.
Honourable Speaker, there's a problem here. We are allowing ourselves to play into the hands of the powerful people. Payments were made before, and some of the people who have been paid actually are government officials, including even ministers in the Ministry of Finance. Their companies are listed there. Where do we leave the poor and the weak people if we don't provide?
Honourable member, that is not the matter that is before the House. The matter that is before the House is that a petition had been presented, and the Speaker had two options: to refer the petition to a committee to handle, but has chosen to refer the matter to the Minister. I have already done that. I've already done that. So what are you debating? I have already referred the matter to the minister. So what am I debating again? Please. I have said there will be the opportunity when this matter comes back to the House, then we'll debate it. But now I've already referred the matter to the minister. You want me to withdraw to the minister and send it to you? Honorable members, tomorrow we have a special sitting of the House to give respects to Major Edward Rurangaranga. And I told you that this parliament would be proceeding on a short break. And I said that would happen tomorrow. But tomorrow being a special sitting, I am asking you to come and be part of the discussion that will give the debate and on the motion that will be tabled by the Prime Minister on the demise of the statesman Major Edward Rurangaranga. But as we close, there are issues that are pending. One is the issue of nodding syndrome. Has not been sufficiently handled. There has been no conclusion. So the directive that I'm giving to government is that in the course of this break, steps should be taken, as had been promised, to take over those liabilities, which were part of what the donor was using, Dr. Suzanne was doing, so that those centers are not closed and the children who are in them at the moment are properly looked after by interventions from government, both in the medical way and also in terms of food and nutrition. The other issue that will remain, that should have come tomorrow, is the issue of the admission of students from Gulu University who took degrees in law, but have not been considered for admission for postgraduate legal practice studies at the Law Development Center. That statement was supposed to have been presented tomorrow, but tomorrow we don't have a normal sitting of Parliament, but that statement will be submitted to the Office of the Speaker, and then we'll disseminate the information accordingly. That's what the Minister has undertaken. Three is the issue of the hosting of sport in Gulu. That one that has been undertaking also will follow up administratively with the people concerned. The dates are closed. It's in 2 weeks' time to make sure that whatever the government has to contribute is made available for the operations of those things so that we don't have an embarrassing situation when the games actually start. And then the issue of the statement that was raised yesterday on the situation that happened in Somalia, the minister was here earlier and made a statement of what is going to happen following what a commission has been constituted. Upon that coming, the reports coming out briefly, both the AU has constituted a commission and also the government of Uganda has instituted a commission that will harmonize these things and then come back to us with a full brief. So, this House now
Procedure, right?
goes on recess. Adjourn, sign die.